Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And apologies in advance for those of you who haven't watched the previous episode yet and wanted to opine on the IAFA class, but it is another cold, wet, rainy weekend where I am. So I've got the opportunity to perhaps play a little more OOTP than I normally would, and I'm going to take advantage of that while I can. So we're going to be moving on and focusing on the IAFA signing period in this episode. Two things to report on before we do that. Actually, three things. I have made an offer to Camilo Daval. Actually, I think I may have made that in the last episode, so maybe that really isn't anything new to report on. I think I did talk about it in the last episode where we offered him a 3-year, somewhat front-loaded contract. Still haven't heard from him, so I don't think he necessarily wants to really sign with us. I believe we were in competition with the Dodgers for him, and don't know that we've blown him away enough with the offer that we've made that he would consider pitching in Coors for the low payroll Rockies rather than in Los Angeles for the high payroll Dodgers. We have made a trade since the last episode, not one that's going to be revolutionary, but it's a guy that I have been kind of following throughout this playthrough, always intrigued by his opportunities or his skill set. I don't necessarily think he's someone who's going to be a major player for us over the course of this series. He's more of a guy who can just fill a gap in our bullpen for the time being, and that's Ryan Walker, the former Giants reliever. The things I like about him, a very nice skill set, keeps the ball in the park, throws in the mid to high 90s, very positive personality traits, and he also is popular. So he actually got us back the 2 points of fan interest that we had lost when we traded away Mr. Palmquist last episode. So we're back to where we were in terms of fan interest. Obviously would prefer to be moving in a positive direction, but at least we're not negative at this point. So Walker, a nice, talented, right-handed arm for our bullpen. The reason that I say I don't think he's really going to be a huge impact on this playthrough is that by the time we're good, he probably won't be, although he's a guy who's in his arbitration years, and still his arbitration years ahead of him, making $3.8 million this year, set to make about $5.7 million next year. He's already 31 years old. He's a guy that really didn't break in for good until his late 20s in the majors. So although he'll definitely help our bullpen over the near to medium term, or we expect that he'll help our bullpen. I guess we don't know that definitely. By the time 3-4 years from now that I think we should hopefully have a legitimate contender going. Don't really know how much he's going to add at that point, being in his mid-30s, and also probably fairly expensive. But a good pitcher who can help us now, and a personality that appears to resonate with the fans are positive things. Gave up several guys for him, but not really anyone major. G.J. Hill is kind of a 4A guy, like the defense, but not really a major league bat. Mason Burns is a guy we traded for towards the early stages of this playthrough. Thought he could become a useful right-handed reliever for us. We haven't even progressed him higher than A-ball at this point, although he was very effective at that level last year. Looks like a useful-ish major league right-handed reliever potentially, but not as good as Walker, I don't believe. And then we had to give up a couple of starting pitching prospects, but not really high-end prospects in my mind. Gregory Sanchez, I think his stuff can be above average movement, but control well below average, and still a question whether he's really going to develop a third pitch. So we we're willing to include the 20-year-old, not thinking that he's a big part of our future. And then similarly, 23-year-old Victor Juarez looks like he could be a useful back of the rotation type pitcher, but with his difficulty keeping the ball in the park and his fly ball tendencies, don't really think that he'll ever play particularly well in Colorado. So it's possible one or two of those starters becomes a useful major leaguer, and 5 years from now, I don't want to say we regret the trade, but if you look at the trade evaluation and the WAR from the trade, it's gone in the wrong direction for us. But none of these players are guys that I would really want to build around. Not that, as I noted, we'll really be building around Walker, because he's more of a stopgap to help us get and continue towards respectability, rather than someone who's going to be with us 5 years from now when I'm hoping we'll be a real contender. But felt like it didn't cost us too much. We have money available this year in terms of our payroll, since we haven't gone crazy in free agency. So we now have Mr. Walker on board, and as I noted, that did give us 2 points of fan interest to get back to the 63 that we were at the start of this offseason. We boosted the scouting budget a little bit. I think I might have actually done that in the last episode and not talked about it, as we were working on other things. And then I think I also pulled the draft budget down because we're not going to need as much money next year as we needed this past season. And it's been a couple weeks since we got our mid-development lab review report, so figured we'd briefly check in on what's going on there too. Charlie Condon excelling in his bat speed program, and Wellington Herrera excelling in secondary pitch improvement, but they're both just barely excelling at this point. So would expect successful programs, but not necessarily exceptional ones. Jack Bauer on track, improving his control. And then Braden Nett and Drew Romo also on track with their programs, but just barely so at this point. 3 programs that aren't going as well. Zane Petty frustrated with his improved control program. Jamie Arnold frustrated as he's trying to increase his pitch movement. And Adile Amador frustrated with his quality of contact program. But ultimately, if we're able to be successful on 5 of 8 long programs, including maybe a couple that are really outstanding, I will certainly take that more often than not. And we'll turn our attention now to what will likely be the main event of this episode, and that's the International Amateur Free Agent Pool and a big decision. Mentioned last time around that we do have $5.7 million to spend this year. I anticipate we're going to remain a relatively low-budget team for the foreseeable future, but with more success on the field last year when we won 86 games and snuck into the playoffs, do worry that we may not have too many $5.7 million budget years ahead of us for the IAFA pool. So that led me to think that I should really go top end and just ensure that we get the player that we absolutely want. And that was my initial strategy yesterday when we first looked at this pool, and still may be where I end up. This is one of those episodes where as the episode gets underway and I've factored in the feedback from the Worldwide Scouting Department, I still am not sure exactly which direction I'm going to go. Could end up trying to spend all the money on one of the top guys, but there have been enough holes punched in some of these top prospects by the Worldwide Scouting Department that not 100% sure that that's where I'm going to end up. It's kind of interesting because there were 3 players who received the vast majority of attention from the Worldwide Scouting Department that we'll talk about. And they all have pretty strong support, but there's some significant distractors out there too. And I think that's most evident with Sergio Alvarado D. Fields, the 16-year-old right-handed pitcher. He was recommended by Raymond Effinger, Colin Hughes, Paul West, Charlie, John Martone, Shinra, and Rob Irvine Jr. Some of them think he is clearly the top prospect that we're probably not just going to see in this IAFA pool, but probably any IAFA pool. The things to like about him are pretty obvious. I think he can have world-class stuff, world-class movement, and 4 borderline world-class pitches while throwing in the triple digits with extreme ground ball tendencies and very good stamina if everything works out. But there are concerns as well, which certainly were noted in the concerns that were noted by some who went in a different direction than Alvarado are definitely factoring into my decision making as well. He's got a ton of work to do as far as his stuff and control. Granted, he's 16 years old, and it was noted that to have that incredible movement on his pitches at 16 years old is an asset. But he's also got 2 pitches that are basically nothing today. Going to need to develop at least one of those to likely be a credible starter. He's got extreme development risk, and as a 16-year-old, a ton of directions he could go. He could become one of the great pitchers in MLB history, but he also could be a guy who washes out and never makes it above Double-A ball like Brian Taylor 30 years ago. And his negative personality traits, most notably the low work ethic, is also a concern for a 16-year-old who has a lot of work to do with his control and his pitch arsenal. So if the personality was neutral, I don't think there's any way I wouldn't pick Alvarado, but with a lot of work to do and some personality quirks, that does open the door, at least in my mind, to consider some other players. And there certainly were a couple of other players that generated a lot of attention. From the worldwide scouting department, and those 2 guys are Ramon Cantero, Tim Foster, Jarek Braxton, Fluffy Dog, NS1 CLRK, and Rob Irvine Jr. all ultimately liked Cantero the most, or tied for the most. And there's a lot to like about him. He's a fairly clean prospect. We think he can be above average at everything offensively, does have high adaptability and work ethic, durable as far as his injury proneness, so he'll be out there every day. The eye and the home run power can be well above average, and the gap power could be exceptional, which combined with 65 speed and his line drive tendencies could result in a large number of extra base hits playing his games in Colorado. Looks like a rather mediocre corner outfielder, so that's not the most attractive thing in the world. At 6'1", he could also become a first baseman and do a credible job there, I think. And if the bat fully develops, certainly could be a bat that you'd put at first base. So definitely a lot to like about Cantero. I don't think his ceiling is quite as high as Alvarado or the next guy that we're going to talk about. But as I noted, think he's a pretty clean prospect for a 16-year-old that brings a lot of positive things to the table. By a small margin, though, the most popular guy with the worldwide scouting department was Reindeer Bill, Carlos Restrepo, Raymond Effinger, Avery Shaham, Tim Foster, Alex the Tall, Paul West, Blade Staff Charlie, SR, NS1 CLRK, and Rob Irvine Jr. all liked Restrepo at or near the top of their list. Similar to Cantero, he's got high adaptability and work ethic. Similar to Cantero, defensively, looks like a first base or mediocre third base type in the infield. And Paul West wanted me to look at his outfield ratings, where he, similar to Cantero, looks like a pretty, mediocre corner outfielder defensively. Comparing Restrepo to Cantero, you can kind of see the differences. Contact, they're very similar. The gap power definitely favors Cantero, but the power and the eye favor Restrepo a bit. Get down into the bunting, and neither is particularly good. Favor Cantero a small amount. And then certainly in terms of speed and base running ability, Cantero with pretty wide margins there. And given that they are both big-time gap power guys, that 20-point difference in speed for Cantero is material. But Restrepo overall, as we talked about, more home run power and a better eye if he reaches his full potential. Not as much speed. They're both similar-ish players defensively. Not going to make a significant positive difference defensively with the positions that they're playing and their defensive skills, and I think either of them could potentially be negative. Similar to Cantero, Restrepo with the high adaptability and work ethic, although he definitely is going to want to get paid. So there's positives and negatives to all three of these guys. Restrepo at $3.8 million has the highest demand of the three that we're seriously thinking about. Alvarado looking for $3.2 million, and Ramon Cantero looking for $3 million. And when we first looked at this pool back in October, clearly before we knew more about the personalities, Alvarado's ceiling was incredibly attractive to me and still is. I get the suggestion that we have to roll the dice as the Rockies and go for guys with high ceilings. But in Alvarado's case, there's enough yellow and red flags here that I don't think he's the guy for me. His stuff and his control currently are as low as they can possibly be. 2 of the 4 pitches that he'll ultimately be reliant on are just above as low as they could possibly be. He's got extreme development risk. He's only 16 years old, and he does have that poor work ethic. And when I put all those things together, I think even with the coaching that we have and the investment in player development that I hope that we can maintain over the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years, there's just too much of a boom or bust potential with Alvarado, particularly for the money that we'd be paying. That as much as I love to add young, talented pitchers into the organization, taking a risk on a 5'10", 165-pound right-hander with some red flags just doesn't work for me. Clearly going to add him to the prospect short list and continue to monitor what he does over time. But we're going to go with Restrepo or Cantero. And right now, I'm going to pivot a bit from what I thought I was going to be doing last episode, and we're not going to just go all in on one player. We're going to go with Cantero, who is cheaper than either of the other guys. A profile that I think can play very well in Colorado. Clean personality, more speed, and I like that durability. And see if perhaps we can lock up Cantero for $3.65 million right now in the next week or two, and leave ourselves with a little more than $2 million to pursue some other players out there. If Cantero comes back to us and says, hey, it's not enough money, I want 4.5, 5.5 million. If Restrepo's still available, and honestly, if Alvarado is still available, it's possible that we could pivot back to one of those guys. So I don't know where this is ultimately going to end up. But if we can get Cantero for $3.65 million and then leave us with a couple $1,000,000 to spread out among some second tier guys to bolster our lower levels of our farm system, I think that's the way we're going to go this year. I know it kind of is in complete contrast to the logic that I talked about with the $5.7 million we had to spend this year, but as much as I like these players, the three of them, there's not one that I'm so in love with that I just feel like I want to offer them $5.7 million right now. Doesn't mean that 2 or 3 weeks from now we won't end up having to pay $5.7 million to get one of them on board, but not willing to just push all of my chips all in right at this time. So in addition to waiting to hear on Mr. Duvall, we're also waiting to hear back from Quintero, and you can see we've also made offers to some minor league free agents to bolster our AA and AAA teams. Have gotten some questions about the types of guys that we offer minor league contracts to recently, so I'll briefly just highlight a few of the guys. Basically, we're just kind of looking for some of the better players that are out there that are willing to accept a minor league contract and generally want guys with good personalities in our organization. So I don't think there's anything particularly or revolutionary in what we're doing. Humberto Castellanos, looks like kind of a 4A kind of pitcher, 28, almost 29 years old with a couple years of major league experience. Another guy, Andy Otero, like the extreme ground ball tendencies, but at 34 years old, he's just organizational filler at this point. Seth Blair, 37-year-old. Another guy, we just need some bodies in AAA right now, and he's a respectable 4A kind of body. Jesse Biddle, a reliever. This is a guy with more of a really good personality, ground ball tendencies. Wouldn't expect him to ultimately be doing anything for us at the major league level unless we have a lot of injuries. But if we do need him, he's got ground ball tendencies. He's a good influence in the clubhouse. Left-handed arm who can do a credible job keeping the ball in the park. Not really a lefty specialist, although he is a little better against left-handed hitters than right-handed hitters. A couple position players as well. Albert Almora Jr., another guy really there for his personality, gives us a really good glove to help out defensively in AA or AAA. Michael Lorenzen, high work ethic guy, just another pitcher to give us some respectable innings in AAA most likely. And then another outfielder, Toshimi Masuda, 29-year-old with potentially ridiculous power and a ridiculous amount of strikeouts. Don't think that he ultimately becomes much of anything for us, but he's an international free agent who's still on the market at this point, and could be interesting to see exactly how many home runs and strikeouts he hits this year in the minor leagues if we do end up bringing him into our organization. So nothing all that revolutionary in what I'm doing. The decent players who are willing at this point to at least consider a minor league contract, who generally have neutral to positive personalities, are kind of what I'm looking like at this point when I'm trying to flesh out some of these rosters. And right now, as you can see, we've only got 18 guys in AAA and 22 in AA. Clearly, we'll be promoting some of the lower level players up, so that'll balance out a little bit organically as we get to the start of the season. But probably need a few more bodies as well to ultimately be able to staff those teams properly. And we've simmed forward a few days, still have not gotten a decision on Cantero, but a rough day for us today. Camilo Doval signed with the Mets, didn't end up going with the Dodgers, never really gave us a response to that last offer that we made him. Clearly, he just did not want to pitch in Colorado because if you remember the last offer we made him, it was 3 years, $12 million total with team options for the final 2 seasons. We had it a bit more front-loaded, or much more front-loaded, with $6 million for the first year and then $3 million team options for the next 2 seasons. But clearly, by any type of economic analysis and time value of money, the deal that we offered him for over $1.3 million more total and more than $2.5 million that he would be getting guaranteed and over this next year was a better deal. So we have kind of seen a situation where it does seem like some pitchers are reticent to sign with the Rockies. Don't know if it's because of cores or because of our team just not being as good, but Duvall will be with New York. So for you Jacksonville Jaguars fans, probably much less risk of me continuing to talk about Liam Cohen and Duvall going forward. Fans also upset that we let Clayton Kershaw go, which is a bit surprising. 38 years old, wrecked physically, tore his rotator cuff, was 2-3 with a 5.60 earned run average for us, barely above replacement level. So he was literally with the Rockies at the major league level for less than 2 months. But unfortunately, we do take a 2-point hit to fan interest based on Kershaw having moved on to what he thinks will be greener pastures with the St. Louis Cardinals. And I don't know if I can say the pivot in our plan has paid off, but what we intended to do has happened. Cantero did sign with us for that $3.65 million bonus. So that opens up a little more than $2 million for us to go after some different players. Whether or not it really works out is going to depend on what Cantero, Restrepo, and Alvarado do over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So we'll certainly be tracking the other 2 guys that we didn't go with, who were certainly as popular, or honestly more popular than Mr. Cantero was with the worldwide scouting department. And a rather boring year for the fictional Hall of Fame voting here in 2027. Andrew Jones got the closest, but is dropped from the ballot after 10 years. A-Rod got 2/3 of the vote. Other than that, nobody really close. Several holdovers involved as well, and don't see any one on this list who looks like they are an imminent Hall of Famer. So with $2.05 million left to spend now in the IAFA pool, we're going to see if we can maybe make it a really nice duo and bring on the catcher, Rafael Duran, switch-hitting catcher who looks solid defensively with a potentially interesting bat. Switch hitter, don't know if he'll really even consider $2.05 million, but that's the most that we can offer him. My hunch is someone will ultimately offer him more than that. I know that some of you are going to ask about trading for IAFA money. I do look at it. The prices for the IAFA money are just ridiculous. I will continue to investigate that, particularly if Duran comes back to us in a few days and says, hey, I love you, but I want $2.75 million. But I have a feeling if that happens, I'm not going to be willing to trade up in terms of what it'll take as far as resources, players, to get that IAFA money. So if we're not able to just get completely lucky and get a pretty high-end prospect in Duran for less than his initial asking price, probably will pivot to some lower-end prospects at that point. And not surprisingly, Duran has come back looking for more money. I'm guessing we're not going to be able to match what he's looking for now. Yeah, offer greater than our remaining bonus pool. Doesn't appear that we can do much, or that I'm willing to do much as far as more IAFA money. So I think I'll trade down a bit to somewhat less highly regarded prospects as we try to supplement Mr. Cantera with another player or two in this IAFA pool. And if you're wondering what happened with the big guns, Restrepo went for almost $4.9 million to Arizona, and Alvarado $5.34 million to the Pirates. Boy, if he can really develop and they can somehow hold on to Paul Skeens, that could be a very interesting rotation 5 or 6 years from now. And as I started thinking about potential plan if we don't spend all the $5.7 million in one place, pivoting to another guy that I've kind of liked, shortstop Jesus Tovar. Looks like a usable bat for a middle infielder with a glove that could be usable at a number of positions. Another guy who's similar to Cantero, is durable. Don't know a ton about his personality, but sounds like there's probably not anything too negative here. Looking for $1.4 million. We're going to try to just get him locked up right away at $1.65 million, which would still leave us $400,000 to potentially sign another one or two lower end prospects. And we made it to the start of the preseason, starting to hear from some of the minor league contract guys that we've offered contracts to. Some of them have gone in other directions. Some of them we still may be able to get on board as we try to round out the organization. Still no change to our budget, so we've got a little bit of money available at this point if we need it. Don't know that we're going to go too crazy in these next few weeks in free agency. But if there's a bargain out there and someone's willing to sign for just a year with us, we can always look for help. Matt Strom is a pretty good left-handed reliever, although he does have fly ball tendencies. Still looking for about $10 million, given the improvements we've made this offseason to the bullpen and the pitching rotation with the additions of Luzardo in May into the rotation, and then Summers and Walker into the bullpen. I don't think that we really need to chase after him. Chris Bubich, another guy who could start for us, respectable lefty major league pitcher. Still looking for 3 years at this point, which isn't really a direction that I think I want to go. Position player-wise, take a look at the top end of the market there as well. Ozzie Albies is a guy who I have been monitoring. We've got Pasquantino likely back at first. We've got Bo Bichette at second. And we've obviously got Tovar at shortstop. So we're really looking to kind of fill third base and some utility infielder roles. And I feel with Adael Amador, Carrig, Cerna, the Rule 5 pick from a year ago, and Luciano, who we signed as an international free agent a year ago, there's already 4 guys who I think are competent-ish major league infielders with the potential for a couple, particularly Amador and Carrig, I would say, to become solid major league starters that I don't think we really have to chase after another infielder. But Albies is a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, hit 22 home runs a year ago for the Braves. Still says he's looking for a 2-year contract right now, but a switch-hitting infielder who we could probably get trained up to play third base at a competent-ish level in spring training is something to consider. Jock Peterson would certainly be a interesting power bat against right-handed pitching, but at 34 years old, still looking for a 4-year contract. Nothing really jumps off the page as me as someone to chase after all that hard quite yet. And we have been signing some of these veterans to minor league free agent contracts, brought on several good personality veterans to help in AAA. And we also got Jesus Tovar signed, so I think he is a nice addition alongside of Cantero into our international complex. A bit older prospect, and think that he can hopefully be helping us in the DSL, if not this year, then certainly next year. And if he reaches his full potential, he is an interesting guy to have in the mix in the major leagues. And we ended up spending our last $400,000 in IAFA money on another infielder prospect, Jose Garcia. Good personality, looks decent defensively, although not a great arm in the infield, so probably more of a second baseman. But between the high loyalty, adaptability, and work ethic, hopefully he can be a beacon of light in our minor league system. Don't necessarily see him being a big-time prospect, but happy to bring a third prospect on board. And we'll see in particular what Mr. Cantero can become in the coming years. And we're just a few days away now from the start of spring training. Take a last look at the development lab before we find out shortly how things ultimately went. Condon and Herrera continue to excel. Bauer, Net, and Romo all still on track. And Amador, Arnold, and Petty are frustrated, although you can see with a little bit of luck over these final few days, Arnold in particular, and maybe Amador, can get to a point where they have a successful experience as well. Certainly not counting on it, but would love it if we could end up with 6 of these 8 programs being successful. And some of the pitchers we were talking about, Chris Bubich, Matt Strom, Ozzie Albies, as far as position players, they all ended up getting decent contracts. So we're going to go into this season with a lot of money available. So because of that, we're going to actually max out scouting alongside player development for at least this year. Don't know that those are rates that will keep up going forward, but very happy with the big free agent signing we made of Mr. Luzardo, and didn't make any other real large or long-term commitments. So in a position now where hopefully we're just maintaining financial flexibility and continuing to move the team in a positive direction. And who knows, maybe next offseason there will be some bigger free agents, or maybe a international free agent that can be a true impact player for us here in Colorado. And we won 2-1 over the Phillies on opening day of spring training, which was successful. And ultimately, we did get lucky with 6 of our 8 long programs in the development lab being outstanding or successful. Really nice result for Charlie Condon with one of the more difficult programs, generating more bat speed, current and potential power, both improved. He's the number 49 prospect in baseball. Was not great when we promoted him to AAA towards the end of last season, but certainly with those steps forward, looks like he's got major league quality home run power right now. Will likely begin the year in AAA, but hopefully is not too far off from being able to help us. He's certainly going to be in spring training at the Major League Camp with us. Zane Petty, unfortunately, no improvement in his control program. He's the guy we picked up in the second round out of Texas Tech last year. We're really hoping that we could accelerate the 23-year-old's development with a successful trip to the development lab, but no such luck. That said, Jack Bauer, another former second-round pick, was successful with his control, current control rating improving by a little less than 5 points. So not a brilliant performance from him, but still some progress in the right direction for the 20-year-old. Was not good in rookie ball last year. Hopefully he can do better in rookie ball this year as a 20-year-old and maybe end the year up in A ball. Wellington Herrera, who is another part of the reason why we didn't go crazy chasing after some of those other relievers in free agency, because we think the lefty could be an important arm for us. And both his current and potential slider improved by 10. The 22-year-old left-hander basically looks like he's ready for the majors as long as we're willing to deal with his poor control. Did walk 10 batters in just 12 2/3 innings in AAA last season as a late call-up to AAA after we promoted him from AA. Certainly think he will be fighting for a spot in the bullpen in spring training, given the number of veterans that we do have. He may end up starting the year in AAA, but would expect that we'll see him in the majors at some point this year. Jamie Arnold, and this was a big one for a guy with a mixed personality that we spent a first-round pick on a couple of years ago. Current movement rating did improve. It was a successful result in the program, although the magnitude of that improvement is not incredible. But we took a gamble on Arnold with the 4th overall pick despite his low work ethic. Doesn't look like he's unfortunately going to be a big-time major league pitcher, but we have had a successful trip in the development lab on his control last year and the movement now. He's in spring training with us. Would certainly expect that he starts the year in AA. Don't necessarily see him developing into a big-time pitcher, which is unfortunate given for a college guy that we picked 4th overall in the first round, but still hoping to salvage a usable major league starter out of Arnold, and a successful development lab trip helps with that. Dial Amador working on a contact program. No noticeable changes there. He is certainly fighting for a roster spot and a potential spot in the starting lineup in spring training this year. Braden Nett improved his control, another guy who's going to be fighting for a rotation spot for the next several years for us. And this is a good one, given that we did sign Romo to an extension this past off season. Current I rating improves by 5, so a little bit better ability to hopefully draw some walks and supplement his great defense and his great influence in the clubhouse with offense that is hopefully at least acceptable for a major leaguer. So I can't say that the magnitude of a lot of the successful programs was incredible, but if 6 out of 8 are successful for us, we're going to take that 9 times out of 10 in the development lab. And with that, we'll call it an episode. Spring training is underway. Next time around, we'll talk through what we're going to do in the shorter development lab programs during this spring training period. Hopefully keep the team healthy, make some big decisions as to who's going to head north to Colorado with us for the 26-man roster this year, and then also see what the experts think we're going to do on the field here in 2027 as we try to follow up a surprising winning record and playoff season last year with another good season here with the Rockies. Until that next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.